This is Malcolm with Inferi, and you're watching RichardMetalFan.
So what's up, guys? RichardMetalFan here with episode 57 of RichardMetalFan Interviews here at the Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here with Malcolm from Inferi. How you doing, Malcolm?
What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Well, so you're currently on this tour with Archspire, Entheos, and Volvidinia. How's the tour been going so far? It's the most typical interview question ever.
Yeah. It's actually been going pretty good. Like most of the shows have been sold out. It's been kind of nutty. So it's good return from, after COVID and all that stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, this format doesn't want to do a quick rundown of your catalog as well as your musical journey from where you started to now. But before we go into that, I want to dive right back to the very beginning. What were the first bands that got you into metal, and what made you want to start playing guitar?
Back then it was like a lot of new metal and stuff like that, like Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
And then from there, it kind of like evolved into like more old school, like thrash, like Metallica.
Oh, yeah, I got into
Slayer and stuff like that. So that kind of took me on to heavier and heavier things, looking for like heavier stuff over time. So like I don't know, got into like a lot of the metalcore stuff, a lot of hardcore stuff back then, and kind of just evolved into getting into more technical stuff like Necrophagist and all that.
Awesome. So what were your bands before starting up Inferi? If you were in any bands prior to Inferi?
Oh man, I can't really think of all the names. I don't even know if I want to name them. They're so bad.
All right. Just skip like the quick bridge.
Like the main band before Inferi was called Death Looks Promising. And yeah, that kind of basically the band. We just changed the name to Inferi after some lineup changes.
Yeah, I know Inferi obviously comes from Harry Potter. Were y'all like Harry Potter fans?
Yeah, our drummer was listening to like an audiobook, and you figure out what Inferi were, like the resurrected, like ghouls or whatever, and I don't know, we just rolled with it because picking a band name sucks.
All right. So 2007, you dropped the debut album, Divinity of War. Tell me about that whole recording process of that, how all the writing and everything.
Well, basically, we recorded that album twice. We finished the first time, and then the guy that we paid to do the album disappeared. Drug-related stuff. And then, so yeah, we had to re-record it the next year, and it finally came out in 2007. I think we started it in 2006, and yeah, so we had to re-record it twice, and it was kind of just some super early ideas with that that lineup from them, and we were only a 4-piece back then.
Yeah.
Our bass player did vocals.
Oh wow, that's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I heard from, according to Metal Archives, there was only like 50 copies of that made. Is there also plans to reissue it?
There's no current plans to reissue that at the moment. We've talked about it a bunch though, so you never know. Maybe.
Right. And then going forward to the next album, End of an Era, like of course with your first album, you have your entire career in your life to start writing it, and there's like a lot of hype after it's released. Did you feel like pressure to follow up Divinity of War going into End of an Era?
No, not at all. Actually, it was just kind of like a natural progression for the band at the time. Yeah, it was pretty easy. Just spent a lot of time on it, back to back. I was already writing it, a lot of that material, since we recorded the first album twice. You know what I mean? I was writing new stuff in between all that stuff. So yeah, it was basically pretty chill, no pressure at all, honestly.
Awesome. And then I know in 2019 you actually did a reissue of it for the 10-year anniversary. What was that idea to come out to reissue it?
Well, it was a little bit more than a reissue. It was we re-recorded everything from scratch. The idea was I didn't really like the production from the original version.
Yeah.
And I think all of the musicianship has evolved over the years, and we finally have like a tight-knit lineup. And I kind of want to see what would happen if we displayed those songs and the style that we're doing now.
Yeah, and you definitely have evolved from that. Of course, the Vile Genesis we'll get into later. But then moving forward to the next album is Path of Apotheosis, and then of course you signed to Artisan Era. How did they find you guys?
Yeah, when we did Path of Apotheosis, Mike and I started the label.
Oh, so it's your own label.
Yeah.
So you're also good. You're just like, yeah, we're signing ourselves.
Well, we sold so many copies that we just used all the money to invest into a label.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that pretty much gives you like free creative control and not have to worry about like labels like hustling you for new albums
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward to the next album, Revenant. I love that album. That, believe it or not, was the album that actually got me into you guys when I first saw you all on that tour with Obscura that you did back in 2018.
Yeah.
What was that like going from Path of Hypothesis to Revenant?
Yeah, that one was kind of tough because when Path came out, we had a lot of member changes. A lot of people moved away from the city, and at that point it was kind of just me and Mike. So it was a process for us to find the right people to track the album and try to start touring. So that was really difficult, and a lot of time it went by at that point. I think it was like 4 years apart from those records.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little trials and tribulations with members.
Awesome. And then in 2020 you released of Sunless Realms, the EP. Was that something to hold people over to Biogenesis last year?
That was a product of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So we planned on tracking our album Biogenesis during 2020, but since we couldn't tour and do it, all of our plans, we had to find a way to fund the album. So we put out an EP to help fund the album. So it was kind of a release based out of necessity.
Awesome. And then I know last year you released the Biogenesis. So how has that whole writing and recording process and the album cycle been so far?
The album cycle has kind of been weird because of COVID. So this is our first time out in 2 years, and we had an EP and an album come out. So this is the first time we're having the opportunity to play any of these songs live. So the cycle's been kind of half-assed.
Yeah. And like you mentioned with the different members and lineups, does the lineup bring new elements that you all didn't have prior, or do you ever have to adjust your playing and all that good stuff?
No, we're pretty set. It's the same lineup from Rebirth. So Rebirth of Sunless Realms and Biogenesis all have the same guys on it. So at this point, it's kind of easy to know, what everybody's going to be, trying to do.
Yeah. So do you usually try to experiment with your sound, or is there usually a formula that Inferi sticks with?
There's not really a formula. I just kind of write a bunch of riffs and then try to pick the best ones that work for the song. Sometimes things work, sometimes things don't.
Yeah, and is there something that you usually like to start with writing a song, with the base of a song when you start writing?
No, I think pretty much everything is kind of different. Just kind of try to keep that as natural as possible. It's not really a set go-to thing.
All right, and going into your live show, is there a similar energy to playing live as to recording on CD, or they're almost kind of two separate?
They're two different things. Live, you have to account for any and everything that go wrong. Recording is super comfortable, and day to day, every day on tour is different. So something might break, cable might go bad. You just have to bring a different energy completely than recording in the studio.
Yeah, awesome. So I got two more questions for you. Going back into songwriting, because given your style, you're very techy and fast. Also have very progressive element. And it's like for you, how do you know when a song is done?
Oh man, song's never done. Song is never done. It's just released. I kind of just have to start to get tired of it, I guess. Just work on it to a point where it's it can't, you get diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But the more you add to it, I think that's when you can kind of call it done.
Oh. Awesome. And then the last question I want to ask you is, like, coming from Nashville, Tennessee, where you guys are from, was there like a scene that Inferi felt a part of in Nashville, or was it for the goal for the band, like, get outside of Nashville and put in front of different states and countries and stuff?
It's kind of a tough question because you know, back when Inferi started, the idea was to tour. We did like one small tour, like shortly after Divinity and War came out. And things were just tough back then, you know. Couldn't just like use your phone to, like, you know, navigate across the country and shit like that. So, you know, booking a tour on MySpace is very difficult. So, yeah, things were weird. So we didn't tour very often, and then we broke up, and then we got back together in like 2011, and then around Path, we wanted to like try to get out and tour. I had a lot of member issues, so we had to put that on hold again. And then when Revenant came out, we were finally able to hit the road.
Awesome. So before we go, I just want to thank you for this interview.
Sure.
Is just anything else with Inferi you would like to promote in terms of like tours and your music and stuff?
We got a lot coming up. I can't really announce anything publicly at the moment, but
You'll just tell me off.
no, yeah.
So everybody, Malcom from Inferi. We'll see you next time.